The new vice president called my department useless. I had already spent half the morning holding a bag of cinnamon plantain chips to the light like evidence. I worked quality assurance at Poppy Crate Foods, a snack company with cheerful packaging. My job was less cheerful. I checked seals, labels, lot codes, storage logs, and sample integrity, so customers did not end up sick and the company did not end up in court. I was 28, practical, and just vain enough to enjoy being right. His name was Owen Voss, our new VP of Operations. He arrived sometime in the early morning wearing a costly watch and a rehearsed grin. He stared at our release board, which listed the steps required before a shipment left the plant, and laughed. "This is what slows us down?" No one answered. He tapped the board. Packaging review, allergen verification, temperature checks, retention samples, complaint cross-checks. "Useless," he said. "You are not protecting revenue. You are choking it." I glanced at Bev, our senior specialist. Bev had worked in food compliance long enough to treat arrogance like mildew. I smiled anyway. "That is an ambitious way to introduce yourself," I said. "Do you also insult paramedics for walking instead of jogging?" A few people coughed. Owen did not. Then he handed my team a list of new assignments. We were ordered to count pallet wrap inventory, reorganize archive binders, sit in warehouse efficiency meetings, and build a morale presentation. Meanwhile, outgoing snack lots kept stacking up, unreviewed. By midday, the queue looked like a traffic pileup. Bev objected. Owen folded his arms. "Ship pending review." The room went still. Food should never move pending review. I wrote his instruction in my notebook word for word. I learned that habit from my mother, who handled property closings and believed paper had better manners than memory. After her divorce, she taught me 2 rules. Never sign where your judgment disagrees. Never trust a verbal instruction once money enters the room. So I documented everything. Date, batch number, time window, names present. Later, Owen stopped by my station while I logged a variance on sea salt lentil crisps. "You are Mina, right?" "Yes." Still useless, apparently. He smiled the way certain men smile at women they assume are bright but manageable. "You are young. Learn the difference between caution and obstruction." "In my field," I said. "That difference is usually measured in recall costs. Your job is to support production. My job is to protect release integrity." He walked off. Around lunch, I sent him an email and copied Bev plus our compliance manager, Jules. I summarized the delayed checks, the open lots, and his instruction to release before verification. My tone was cool and exact. "If you ever need a record to survive executive revisionism, write like a board member may read it aloud." He replied with one line. "Proceed with revised workflow. Do not create bottlenecks." There it was. Not a confession. Better. A directive. By late afternoon, trucks rolled anyway. I did not decide on revenge in one dramatic burst. I decided something better. I would not carry his risk in my name. I tagged every affected batch in a private release log, matched each one to shipment records, and saved enough cash to cover several months of rent in case I had to leave quickly. Women inside unstable power structures should always know how to afford the exit. That evening, Bev stood beside my desk and asked, "You think he knows what he just did?" I sealed a retention sample. "No. Men like that think process is a personal insult." Bev nodded. "Then let him meet consequence." The complaint calls started before the week had settled. At first, they came in ones and twos through customer care. Stale texture, wrong seasoning intensity, a bag that puffed strangely when opened. Then a regional buyer flagged illness tied to a spicy cassava bite from one of my unreleased lots. I pulled the records and felt my jaw lock. Batch 4, C17, sent out without final quality sign-off. By the next morning, there were more. Nausea, cramping. One urgent care visit, then a hospital observation case. Food work trains you to think in batches, but every complaint is a person trusting a bag too much. Owen called an emergency meeting and opened with his usual confidence, except his tie was crooked. Let us not overreact. Complaints happen. Not in clusters, Bev said. He ignored her and turned to me. Mina, how quickly can QA clear the remaining lots? I stared at him. The lots delayed because you pulled my team into pallet counts and morale slides? His eyes hardened. I need solutions. You had them. You reassign them. Silence spread. Jules from compliance slid a folder onto the table. We need a hold on related shipments, immediate traceback by lot code, and a documented decision trail. That last phrase mattered. Each decision trail. Not accident. Not bad luck. A chain. I handed over my notebook, release log, and printed emails. Every dated note. Every batch reference. Every instruction. If you ever find yourself in a room where people suddenly discover selective memory, paper is the only witness that does not blink. Owen skimmed the pages. Why were you keeping this? I smiled. Because I work in quality assurance. A product hold went out. Then came the recall. Local news picked it up sometime in the afternoon. Social media did the rest. Photos of our snack bags spread across screens beside angry posts from parents, students, and one retired nurse who wrote a devastating thread. Inside the company, panic dressed itself as urgency. Finance estimated recall costs. Legal measured exposure. Investor relations wanted wording that sounded transparent without sounding catastrophic. That is always dangerous. Public companies can survive bad news. They rarely survive bad news plus evasive disclosure. Our stock chart fell hard. In the middle of it all, Owen cornered me near the test kitchen. You are making this worse, he said. No, I documented it. You are not senior enough to understand executive decision-making. Interesting, I said. I understood enough not to release food without checks. He lowered his voice. Be careful. When companies clean house, they do not stop at one office. I went straight to HR and compliance together, not separately. That matters. Never report retaliation into one hallway and hope it echoes correctly. I described the exchange and followed up by email before sunset. That evening, I called my mother from my apartment floor, shoes still on. She listened, then said, Do not trade on company stock. Do not delete anything, and do not let anyone pressure you into rewriting history. I was not planning to. I know, she said. I am reminding you that pressure makes smart women feel impolite for resisting. Be impolite. By the next morning, the board audit committee wanted documents. Owen strutted less after that. He still tried. Men built from ego do not deflate neatly. On the production floor, my team finally returned to actual quality checks. We moved through retention samples, sanitation logs, and label rolls like medics in a war zone. Every clean batch we cleared felt like restoring oxygen to a room someone else had poisoned with arrogance. Bev stood beside me and said, He is finished. I kept my eyes on the labels. Not yet. Finished is when everyone who ignored this learns what it cost. Around the next morning, the building looked the same from the outside. Polished glass, clean logo. A little fountain near the entrance suggesting calm. Inside, it felt like a courtroom without robes. The board sent in outside counsel, a food safety consultant, and a forensic accountant named Cora Lynn. I liked her immediately. She asked for timelines. I gave her timelines. She asked who overrode release procedures. I gave her names, dates, and email headers. She asked if anyone had tried to alter logs after the fact. Not yet, I said. But our release database tracks edits. Cora gave me a small smile. Good. Keep speaking like that. Corporate disasters have choreography. Legal measures liability. Finance measures damage. Public relations measures wording. Good governance measures who made the call and who knew enough to stop it. That last part is where companies discover they have been treating expertise like decoration. By midday, investor questions were pouring in. Sales teams fielded icy calls. One distributor froze future orders. Our shares fell again. A crash is not just numbers on a screen. It is retirement accounts wobbling, vendor confidence evaporating, and employees checking job postings in hidden tabs. That was when Owen tried his boldest trick. He circulated a draft summary blaming release disruption on temporary documentation inconsistency within QA. A neat phrase meant to tuck a live grenade into my lap. Jules forwarded it to me with one line. Do not answer emotionally. I opened a fresh document and responded point by point. Q. A protocols were not inconsistent. They were interrupted by executive directive. The relevant lots had been shipped before final review under revised workflow ordered by operations leadership. Supporting records were attached. I copied compliance, legal, and Cora. For accuracy and governance purposes, no summary should omit the decision-maker responsible for bypassing established controls. That sentence traveled fast. By sometime in the afternoon, our chief executive, Dana Sloan, called a leadership meeting that included me. Dana had the composed face of a woman who could read a merger memo and a room at the same time. She asked me to explain the failure in plain language. When QA is blocked from checking seal integrity, contamination markers, label accuracy, yang and storage consistency, you do not have faster output. You have delayed consequences. The shipment leaves early. The lawsuit arrives on schedule. No one moved. If a company wants efficiency, fine, I said. But in regulated products, controls are not decoration. They are the fence around the cliff. Dana steepled her hands. Could this have been prevented? Yes, I said, by not calling the fence useless and sawing through it. After the meeting, Dana stopped me in the hall. You kept your own records? Yes. Why? Because process matters most when someone powerful tries to replace it with mood. She nodded once. Good answer. That evening, Owen invited me to a private conversation. I declined and replied that I was happy to discuss any questions with compliance present. He found me anyway near the warehouse staircase. You think this makes you a hero? No, I said. Heroes are flashy. I am organized. His laugh was sharp. You have no idea how companies work. I know exactly how they work. People cut corners, then hunt for a woman to absorb the edge. He stepped closer. Be careful, Mina. I did not move. I am. That is why you are nervous. He left with that tight expression men get when intimidation brings poor returns. That night, I moved a little more cash into savings and updated my resume. Not because I planned to lose, because security makes courage easier to afford. By the next sunrise, rumors were already ahead of the elevators. Owen had been asked to surrender system access. The building had not cheered. It had exhaled. News of Owen's removal spread in the kind of whisper that beats every official announcement. By the time I reached my desk sometime in the early morning, people were pretending to work while clearly listening for confirmation. Warehouse supervisors stopped glaring at QA sales teams, quit treating us like weather. Even the maintenance crew looked lighter. Then the official email landed. Owen Voss was no longer with Poppy Crate Foods. No tribute. No glowing transition language. Just the polished corporate version of you are gone, and legal helped write this. I did not celebrate. I printed the email and tucked it into my folder. Bev leaned against my cubicle wall. That is a bit intense. I like records, I said. You like trophies. That too. But the story did not end with a firing. Retailers still wanted answers. Customers still wanted refunds. The board wanted assurance that this was not a culture problem wearing one-man suit. Sure, they were right. Governance fails long before a recall if experts are ignored, reporting lines are muddy, and compensation rewards speed more than judgment. Dana asked me to join a cross-functional review group. On paper, I was the junior person in the room. In reality, I was the one with the cleanest facts. We rebuilt release authority from the ground up. No shipment without dual sign-off from QA and compliance for flag categories. No verbal overrides. Every deviation logged. Every reassignment of quality staff documented and approved. Customer complaints linked directly to batch records instead of dying in separate software. We also added a retaliation reporting path that bypassed operations leadership. During one session, a board member asked whether the company should disclose more about the control failure on the next investor call. I said yes. A few faces tightened. Public companies hate plain speech right up until regulators appreciate it. Why? The board member asked. Because half-truth creates second collapse, I said. If investors think this was random and later learn it was a management override, credibility breaks twice. Markets can survive bad news. They punish concealment. Cora Lynn, glorious creature that she was, nodded once. That is correct. Outside work, my Aunt Lena called with the kind of concern relatives reserve for scandal and storms. You are not signing anything weird, are you? She asked. No. Good. Also, if anyone offers severance in exchange for silence, me have counsel read it. Women in my family may disagree about wallpaper and holiday food, but on contracts, we are a choir. The investor call came and went. Dana acknowledged the recall, the leadership change, and the corrective measures. The stock did not bounce, but it stopped falling through the floor. A few days later, I sat across from Dana in her office. You were right, she said. That must be painful. Her mouth twitched. Do not get cocky. Too late. She slid a folder toward me. Promotion. Senior Quality Systems Lead. Better pay. Expanded reporting authority. I looked up. Is this gratitude or hazard pay? Both, she said. And because I do not intend to build another structure where expertise reports to ego. That line mattered more than the money, though the money was excellent and I am not too noble to admit that. And I accepted, but not before reading every page. Salary, bonus metrics, equity terms, reporting chain. People call women difficult when we read before signing. I call it literacy with benefits. When I told Bev, she hugged me so hard my badge twisted sideways. You earned it, she said. I documented it, I corrected. She laughed. That too. Still, I allowed myself one tiny flourish. Facilities was clearing out Owen's office, and an assistant asked if anyone wanted the framed slogan he had hung behind his desk. Move fast or move out. I took it home. Not to admire, to hang above the litter box. A few weeks after the recall, I stood on the plant floor with a release team, a new protocol binder, and the calm that arrives after chaos when everyone understands what the quiet people were warning about. The lines were running again. Slowly, seen carefully, properly. Bags of rosemary chickpea crisps moved past metal detectors and seal checks. Labels matched formulas. Retention samples were filed like disciplined little witnesses. There is something beautiful about a system that works, because no one is pretending expertise is optional. I had a new title, a better salary, and a level of authority that made certain men suddenly discover manners. Yet the real shift was larger than me. The company had learned, in the most expensive way available, that quality assurance is not decorative overhead. It is asset protection, brand protection, legal protection, human protection. Funny how fast that becomes obvious after a stock slide. By then, analysts had started asking sharper questions on calls. Retail partners wanted tighter audit rights in supply agreements. Insurance carriers wanted evidence of corrective action. Even the board wanted training on escalation duties and product risk oversight. Amazing what happens when consequence arrives wearing invoices. One afternoon, I led a session for managers from operations, finance, and sales. Not a lecture. more like a survival guide in decent shoes. I explained that if you skip controls to make numbers look better this quarter, you may be converting routine cost into product liability, securities exposure, and reputational harm by the next quarter. I explained that written approvals matter, that verbal pressure is still pressure, that retaliation claims bloom when people punish truth tellers, and that no margin is worth a customer in an emergency room. No one called the department useless. Afterward, a supervisor named Ravi caught up with me near receiving. He had clashed with QA before the recall because he thought forms were the natural enemy of productivity. "I owe you an apology," he said. "Specific apologies age better." He nodded. "I treated your team like a delay instead of a safeguard. I was wrong." That was solid. I respected it. "Accepted," I said. "Please continue being correct in writing." He laughed. "Fair." At home, my mother came by with takeout and the approving glance she reserves for women who have outmaneuvered nonsense without setting their own future on fire. "You did well," she said. "I was furious." "Yes," she replied, "but you were methodical first. That is why it worked." She was right. Rage can light the match. Records win the case. Before bed, I opened the folder where I kept the notebook pages, the recall notices, the promotion letter, and the corrected governance chart. Not because I needed to relive it, because I like remembering the exact shape of lessons paid for dearly. Here is one of them. If a leader calls your expertise useless, do not waste breath begging for respect. Measure the risk. Protect your name. Save your evidence. Understand the contract in front of you, the chain of command above you, and the cash cushion beneath you. Then let reality introduce itself with all the courtesy of a falling share price. Poppy Crate Foods did recover, slowly. Customers returned lot by lot, shelf by shelf, after the recalls ended and the reforms held. Sales climbed back in careful steps. The stock found its feet. Trust grew the way it always does after damage, not with slogans, but with proof. As for me, I stopped flinching when powerful men mistook confidence for competence. The difference is easy enough to spot once you have watched both under pressure. Confidence talks over specialists. Competence asks better questions. Confidence wants speed. Competence wants clean results. Confidence loves a shortcut. Competence checks where it leads. And yes, I kept that framed slogan above the litter box. My cat scratched the corner off within days. Even she knew what belonged in waste.